A random man tried to rope my girlfriend at a party, and I defended her, but the cops arrested me for assaulting him. About a year ago, my girlfriend Madison and I attended a party, and a few hours into it, we snuck off into an empty closet room to make out. In the middle of our makeout, I went to the bathroom, and on my way back, I heard her scream. I rushed in and saw some dude trying to violate her while she was pushing him off. I socked the guy from behind and wailed on him hard, and I only stopped after he was out cold. Madison and I left the party, and I thought that was that. But the next day, police showed up to my door and put me in handcuffs, telling me I was being charged with aggravated assault. I tried my best to explain what had actually happened, but they wouldn't listen. They took me away, and once I was in jail, I called Madison and explained the situation. Long story short, I was bailed out by her, and the legal process dragged on for months. In the end, the court ruled based on the testimonies of the guy's friends who were also there at the party, who painted me as the aggressor. Madison explaining what had happened and how she was violated meant nothing to them apparently. In the end, I was sentenced to 7 months in jail. In jail, the days were monotonous. The same walls, the same routines. It felt like time had become a loop. I tried to read books to pass the time, but most of the books were beat up and missing pages. My mind then turned to how Madison would view me after this, and the life I could provide her. I hoped that I could find a job after this, and that Madison would wait for me. I felt hopeless until the first visit happened. When I walked into the visitation room, I felt a bit lighter than usual. Seeing Madison there felt like seeing the first flowers of spring after a really long, cold winter. I was almost surprised to see her there. I had tried not to get my hopes up about her visiting so I wouldn't be let down if she couldn't come. Me and Madison talked about the small things first, like the book she was reading and a movie she had seen last week, but she seemed a bit off. I noticed her talking rather quickly and wasn't looking me in the eye. It felt like her body was here physically, but her mind was elsewhere. I asked her if everything was okay, and she said she's been feeling overwhelmed lately. When I asked her about what exactly, she replied that it's been a lot handling everything on her own. I reassured her that after I got out, I would do everything in my power to take the load off of her completely, but she told me that I just didn't understand. I questioned her about what she meant, but she refused to give me an answer. She visited me regularly throughout the 7 months of me being there, but every single time she wouldn't ever tell me why she was so overwhelmed, as apparently it wasn't just because I was in jail. Her visits are what kept me going every day in jail. She was my only connection to the outside world, and then it was the day I would be released. The morning sun shined a little brighter that day, and the air was crisp. I stood at the gates of the facility and threw my backpack over my shoulder. As the gate swung open, I saw Madison pulling up, and I ran to the car. She looked beautiful as ever. When I got to the car, I pulled her out and hugged her and kissed her repeatedly. She laughed and kissed me back. I told her how much I missed her, and she returned the love. We got in the car and headed home, and that's when I asked her if I could come over to her mom's house for something to eat. I barely ate in jail because that food was bland and made my insides feel terrible. I was beyond excited to get something to eat from her mom's home, especially since I never got home-cooked meals at home. I grew up around family members that barely tolerated me, and when I moved out, I never looked back. Madison said, "Why don't we just stop by a fast food place on the way home?" I had not worked in over 7 months, and I didn't have much savings before I left for jail. I'd hate to have to make her come pick me up from jail and pay for my food. Also, her mom's cornbread was the best in town. I told her I was craving a home-cooked meal, and she said she'd cook for me. It felt like she was avoiding the question completely. I asked her if everything was all right, and she told me that everything was fine. "Then why can't we visit your mom's house?" I asked her. She took a deep breath and told me that we needed to talk about something. I never liked the sound of those words. I told her that we could, and she told me that ever since I got the charge, her family told her that she needed to choose between them or me. I asked her why that was an option. She said it was because they saw me as a violent person, since the court ruled that she was lying about what had happened at the party. I could see the hurt in her eyes as she told me this. I asked her if she told them what really happened, and she said she did. I don't understand why they would listen to a judge who wasn't there for the incident over their own daughter. They said that I wasn't protecting her, and that I was probably too intoxicated and started the fight. I asked her what she did after finding all of this out, and she said that she chose me and broke down crying. This was the reason she was visiting me all these months. We pulled over, and she continued to tell me everything. I could tell she's been holding in this for months, and it all came out at once like someone had broken a dam. She went on to say that she had been living on her own for months on end, trying to make ends meet. I asked her why she didn't tell me this sooner, and she said that she couldn't because I was in jail at the time, and I needed to focus on getting through it, and having more to deal with was not what I needed. I agreed with her. There wasn't much that I could do in jail but worry about her, but I'm here now, and I knew I would make good on my promise to her. I hugged her tight and told her that everything would be okay. I told her to get in the passenger seat to calm down, and I drove us to her place. A few months later, me and Madison were having a game night with just the two of us. We were playing Uno, which was her household's favorite game. They would play it all night and into the early morning some weekends. I laid a draw 4 on her, and she seemed pretty bummed, but not the type that you normally would see if someone had to pick up cards. She looked sad, like on the verge of tears. I tried to joke with her and say, "Honey, I know I'm kicking your butt right now so you don't have to draw." She looks at me, and a singular tear falls down her cheek. I immediately put the cards down and went to hold her. I asked her what was wrong, and she said that she just really misses her family. She said that I was enough for her, but she's never gone this long without speaking to her family, and playing the game made her miss them more. I asked her if she wanted to try to reach out to them again to rebuild that relationship, but she said she didn't know if they would talk to her, and that she just wanted them to believe her. I said that she wouldn't know if she didn't try, but she felt that the trust between them was completely shattered. Getting it back to how it was before would take time, and I recognized that. When I asked her if she would be open to meeting up with them to talk about it, she said she would like that. I then went to the kitchen to get her favorite ice cream. She looked at me and smiled, tears still in her eyes. We sat in the living room talking and eating ice cream until we went to bed. The next day, I tried to contact her dad, but he didn't pick up the first time. I assumed he was possibly still at work, so I called her mom. She answered and asked who it was. When I told her who I was, she hung up immediately, so I called back and asked her for 30 seconds of her time. She told me to make it quick, and I told her how Madison had been feeling these past few months and how she wanted a relationship with them again. She said that if I was a part of it, then they wanted nothing to do with us. She called me a crazy, abusive man and said how afraid she was to be in the same room as me. I didn't defend myself. Instead, I told her that I wouldn't have to be involved, and this was for Madison. I reminded her that we both loved her and both wanted to see her happy, and I knew that this would make her happy. She said she agreed only because she missed her little girl, and that is when I told her that they could meet in the park in broad daylight, and I wouldn't be anywhere around if she didn't want me to. She said she would meet with both of us only because it was a public location with witnesses. But you wouldn't know anything about having that, she said to me. Her words hurt a bit, but I knew this was for Madison, so it made it worth it. We agreed on a date and a time, then I rushed off the phone to tell Madison the good news. When she picks up, she seems a bit nervous and tells me that she doesn't know what she will say. I told her that it would come to her when she's in the moment and to not stress it. The day of the meetup was in full swing. I grabbed lunch for me, Madison, and her mom, and we headed to the park. The drive there, Madison looked like she was sweating bullets. She kept her eyes fixed outside the window the majority of the time and didn't talk much. When we got there, I told her that whichever way it went, she would be okay. She nodded, and we walked over to a table where we met her mom. She greeted us both, one more excited than the other, and we sat down and ate lunch. She started off asking what really happened that night, and I told her that this was just an annual summer bash that was hosted by our friend. We went to it every year, and when I got there, some dude approached her and tried to hit on her. I sent him on his way, and later on, when Madison and I were in a closet room alone having a deep chat, we weren't having a deep chat, but I was not about to tell her mother what we were actually doing, and I went to the bathroom. When I got back, I saw the same dude from earlier, very clearly trying to violate her. I laid hands on him pretty hard. We left the party after informing the host of what had happened, but for some reason the next day, cops showed up and arrested me. Of course, as luck would have it, the host was moving countries in a week and could not testify in court. After I said this, her mother asked Madison if that was true, and Madison agreed and said that she thanked God that I was there that night. Her mom still felt like I was violent, and that's when Madison told her mom that the guy she should be afraid of was the one from the night of the incident. He didn't take no for an answer, and that's when I stepped in and protected her. She kept telling her over and over how I didn't start the fight and how I only pushed the guy off of her. The table fell quiet. Her mom saw how Madison was crying and how much it ate away at her, and she knew that Madison was telling the truth. She saw how heartbroken Madison was, and her mom started apologizing. She placed her hand over her mouth and began to cry. She said to herself, "My baby, my poor baby." She apologized to me too. She said she never should have listened to the people around her telling her that I was dangerous, and she felt so ashamed that she couldn't be a safe space for her daughter. She said how guilty she was making Madison support herself alone all these months, and the no contact was affecting her as well. She tries to console Madison, but Madison pushes her off. Her mom said she understood, given everything she's been through. She then asked if we could forgive her and start over. She looked at my face for approval, but I told her it would be ultimately up to Madison. Madison was crying into my arms and said that she would need time to forgive her for the past year, but she was willing to try to fix the relationship between them. We left the park and talked about the conversation on the car ride home. Several months after the parking meeting, I could feel the change in Madison's family dynamic. We went over to her house, and I could smell the delicious cornbread from the door. After we ate, her dad pulled out a deck of Uno cards and asked if we were down for a game. We hadn't played since before I went to jail. We teased and laughed with each other, but overall I could see Madison was still walking on eggshells around her family. I could see how hard it was to forgive and forget while being in the presence of the people who almost made her homeless and left her out to die. I could tell that the trust in her parents had been lost, but she was on the road to having a cordial relationship with them.